But just to give you a moment to think about your questions, I thought I would just ask one question to the panelists. You don't all feel like you have to answer, but I recently, I've been at the Bight for about 13 years, and over my time here, I've been involved with bringing together support groups, trying to orient around resources, text, ritual, creating our own ritual, looking at existing rituals, bringing in outside speakers about sensitizing a community of what to say, what not to say. And I'm always surprised when people say this is a topic that nobody talks about. And while I know that's true, I sometimes feel like in my circles that's all we talk about. But I had the opportunity recently to participate in the Federation bringing together a group of people to think and dream about if we had all the resources available to us, what would we as a community do? Knowing and hearing the statistics of how many suffer and are affected and impacted by infertility and pregnancy loss and all related issues, what should we as a community be doing? We spend a lot of time, thank God, pouring resources and money into support groups for cancer, for other diseases. And there hasn't been a lot of communal resources, at least not in the extended Jewish community. The Orthodox community is a little better. But what would we do? And so I wanted to just turn the question to the panelists to say, if you could dream, if money was not an option, if money was not a problem, if we had all the money in the world, what should the community throw its resources into to help support people going through infertility and pregnancy loss? What should we be focusing on? Go ahead.
So I'll start. First of all, I was in that UJ room. I'm part of that task force, and it's wonderful to know that there are some people out there that are dreaming and hoping to put some resources behind this issue to make it more front and center. And to your point about whether or not it already is, I will just say that in my own community, I'm the quote-unquote fertility liaison, which just means that I get to stand up in front of a room every so often and say, come talk to me if I can be of help. And I can count on one hand the number of people who have. And that could be because I'm not the face they want to talk to, or it could be because the shame is still there and the silence is really still there. So to dream big, my area of concern is spiritual support. And I want to see this issue on pulpits. I want people talking about it in public. I want to see this issue in privates. Is that the opposite of publics? I want to see it in doctors' waiting rooms. I want there to be chaplains on hand. Any place that women and men interface with less than kind clinicians. I want there to be some sort of spiritual support available. I'll leave it there for now.
Sure. I'm with you on the spiritual support. Again, there are so many people doing this work, and I think because of the private nature or the secret nature of how folks talk about this, we don't really hear about it, and we don't really publicize it, and I know that there are increasing efforts like the UJA campaign to try and make it a more public struggle. But I think actually, when I think about this challenge, part of the issue is the taboo we have on speaking about women's bodies, and assigning value to them in very specific ways, whether that's marriage or children or however we choose to imagine it. And when I think about dreaming big, I think about teenage girls, and I think about communicating worth as young as the age of 12 and up, just that you are inherently worth beautiful things. You're worth the world no matter what you do and what you produce, and your body is right and you are good. And I wonder about that and dreaming big. When I think about also the history of our people as Jewish women and men, I think about the mikveh, and I think about how we all need to have keys to let ourselves in and experience healing in ways that we choose to experience healing, that we don't always need to reach out to people outside of our close friends and family in order to heal.
Very much what both of you said. I'd love to be able to dream big. I think for me, it's about my dreaming big is dreaming small. For me, as you've spoken about that, you're the fertility expert, and so I've also shared that role, and I've had many people come up to me and call me and text me and beg for conversations because they're struggling. And so I think the more people that share their stories and who are open to having these kinds of conversations, the less alone that we'll all feel. I also think that the beauty of the Shabbos we did before Pesach, the Yesh Tikva Shabbos, where probably 100 communities all over the globe used that specific Shabbos to focus on infertility and pregnancy loss, and they all had programs geared toward that. I think that should be done on a yearly basis, if not more than that. I think we start small, and the more people who come and the more people who speak and the more people who are willing to share will make others feel less alone. And the more programming we can do to foster that piece, I think would be helpful.
We'll open up to the audience now.
That's very interesting. Maybe about statistics. I just want to ask you, Dr. Barrow, miscarriage, and you mentioned both miscarriages in the first trimester and both miscarriages from autosomal abnormality. And that's how Hashem made the human body. That's how Hashem made human reproduction. That is part of human condition. First, I mean, doing it intellectually honest to say to a patient once at 7 weeks has a sono, no heartbeat, which most likely is called trisomy, is that intellectually honest to put that baby that's not ever going to be a baby? How can you equate that to a person who has a loss in the
third trimester or a term stillbirth. How can that be the same thing?
Right, so look, as an OBGYN, of course you can't. You can and you can't. And what I would say to that is the gestational age of the baby, while from a medical perspective, at 7 weeks are a number of cells and still a very small microscopic physical piece, and the third trimester loss is an actual fully formed baby. So it's very different physically. Emotionally, for the parents, it's exactly the same. And what I mean by that is the moment you get a positive pregnancy test, I've heard this over and over besides my own experiences, the moment you get that positive pregnancy test, you dream, you hope, you think, girl, boy, curly, straight, long hair. You think about all of it, and you dream. And so all of your hopes and dreams are on this fetus. And And while it's not the same because you don't experience the kicking and the moving and the worries that come later on, the same emotions are behind it and the loss is still the same. If anybody else wants to take their call. You don't agree? It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
People understand that that is part of human life, that fertilizations are made, conceptions are made that are abnormal. That's not ever going to change. That's how reproduction is. That cannot be prevented.
Right. You're right. You're 100% right. Look, the reality is when you try to get pregnant, only 1 in 20% of each month do you have the possibility of getting pregnant, and that's if everything is right. There are things that are beyond our control, and the way the reproductive system is set up is that there are eggs that have perfect chromosomes, there are sperm that have perfect chromosomes, and there are those that don't. And sometimes God determines that you're going to have an imperfect egg match with an imperfect sperm, or vice versa, or in combination, and you will get an imperfect fetus. And because most of those are not supposed to have you fall pregnant, usually you just end up with a period. But some of them do make it. And the emotions behind that, I think, are the same. You still hope and dream that that baby is going to be perfect. You know the baby is not, but you have those same hopes and dreams. The way God designed it is that it's not perfect. And so that's why the statistics, there are so many of us that have had miscarriages. That's exactly why.
So I'm here because 2 very close people in my extended family are struggling, and I want to thank the shul and all the speakers, because before being here last time and this time, I had this hidden agenda. I wanted them to open up to me. I wanted to share all of the resources I think I have. And after being here, I realized that it's extremely personal, and what to say and not to say, and how to be most supportive. But along those lines, if I want to be most supportive, would you advise, having had this, shul experience and having all these resources, if these individuals don't open up to either me or anybody in our extended family and are struggling, and we know they're struggling, what would you advise? Would you advise me to make the first step and say, I think you're struggling, how can I help? And anything from, do you want to catch a movie, or do you want to grab dinner, to, I know so-and-so who's been through your shoes, that's scenario 1, versus completely respecting their privacy and just praying, and any pragmatic or realistic suggestions.
I think that Daci's opening lines were very, very resonant and very, very useful. Just being able to say, I see you, and leaving it at that.
I'll just add while Amy's getting the microphone, just to say that sometimes, and I think this was said, that sometimes we just don't know, and to make assumptions that because somebody doesn't have a baby yet and are struggling with infertility may be a misunderstanding of what's actually going on in their life. If you have true information that is actually what's going on, then reaching out in some soft way, I see you, I'm with you, is important. But I just want to make sure that we don't assume that every single person in the Jewish community, Orthodox community, actually wants to pursue a family and children. And people make life choices that really are their own personal ones.
Absolutely. I just to echo, I think the most you can do is just tell your friends that I'm here for you. And if you want to talk, if you want to share, I'm here. That is the only thing you can do. You can't force people to share before they're willing. You can't make people divulge their private lives. The only thing you can do is just let them know that you're there. I think other pieces like, doing things to help get their mind off of their struggles, whatever they might be, like going out, offer to take them out to a movie, to a manicure, for a massage, for some ice cream, whatever that is, just to chill, I think is also incredibly valuable when they're ready. And there are also some resources on the pamphlet that was passed around of support groups and places that they can go to get the support from people who they know will be helpful. So that's, if at any point they do come to you, those are good resources to have.
And I just want to add something. I see you. I want to just name that I noticed actually tonight there are several people who are supporting those who are struggling. So that's also a role, right? And it's become increasingly important to wonder about those folks, those, Erin, you mentioned briefly the aunts, the uncles, just people who are also going through secondary struggle in that department.
Hi. So I think this is amazing that you guys are here and open talking about this. I'm an OBGYN. Now, the one comment I have as a doctor, I give this diagnosis quite often, unfortunately, and I usually have a relationship with the patient. There's another person in the room. So my patient is crying. I could hug her. I could talk to her. I could call her after the procedure a week later to see how she's doing. But there is a partner. And as much as I see 4 women up here, I am questioning all of you. What about that partner? There's no male up here. I'm at a loss. And I wouldn't mind if some men got up and spoke what to do for that partner. Because I have a relationship with my patient and I hope I'm giving them the support. But I'm always wondering who is giving the partner that support. I don't know if you could give me answers in terms of if the men have men to talk to. I think that's also an important aspect.
Thank you. I'll say that just at the beginning, we did acknowledge the people whose stories are not represented, men being one of them. As part of the closing, and I'll mention it again, the follow-up of last month's panelists, and this panelist will be a gathering of groups where both men and women, and we're still trying to determine whether it should be couples together or separate groups, and that's really going to be dependent on the needs of the community. We'll gather together mostly to be able to tell their own stories, but also to support one another in their struggle. So this is part of a continuing conversation that we know has to be opened up on all levels. But I'll turn it over if anybody has other thoughts.
I just want to say thank you for the comment. I think it's crucial. I tried to highlight through a little bit of text, right, that Yaakov's a character in this story too, who has his own internal life and his own reactions, and I think something that we do fail to see a lot of the time, again, are all those, what you call secondary, those people, it's not quite secondary infertility, but those people who are secondary to the experience, but the husband's not secondary, or the partner is not secondary. He or she is also primary, and we do often forget that. But I also want to name that part of the dynamic is the way in which women often don't see that too, and that part of the struggle of infertility is being aware that there are 2 partners in this struggle, and their reactions might be wildly divergent, and that can also be yet another layer of the pain of the struggle, is what happens in the dynamic of the couple as a result of what's going on. So that too needs to be part of this conversation, to name the husband, the wife, both as people struggling, and also, again, the struggle between them and the ways that they might react differently to what's going on. So it's not only, I agree that doctors and all those who are in supporting roles need to be very mindful of who the characters in the room are. Also, let's name that the siblings who might have lost a potential sibling, right? A mommy's pregnant and then not pregnant. We want to acknowledge those too, right? So there's so many different layers to these stories, and I appreciate your naming it and our ability as a community to hold all of those different relationships.
Outside of support groups in the ritual space, that's a great place for everybody involved, whether that's a morning ritual or a grief ritual in some way. All parties should and can be a part of that. And I just want to share that I've started to introduce fertility into my Kala classes when I teach couples. As NIDA starts to become a partnership practice in a lot of ways, I introduced that it's everything you were saying at the beginning of your talk, right? That all of this is miraculous and it's going to be part of a dynamic as well. So a reminder that as a couple, you can seek spiritual guidance and support for those things. And I think spiritual spaces really do have a big role to play in bringing both parties into it. There are also groups for men.
Right, so I was just going to say that maybe we now have our third lecture series, men. The male aspect.
We'll take one more question. There is one. So I'll just close by saying that as a community, we're really good at marking life cycle events, at transitions, weddings, bar and bat mitzvah, even death, funerals. We know what to do. We have the liturgy, we have the rituals, we have the texts, we have the support groups. But we don't know yet how to mark the losses that aren't yet acknowledged. And part of what we're gathering here to do over and over and over again is to encourage our community to move forward and to think bigger about how to mark the loss of these hopes and dreams that many people share. I don't know any couple who begins their life journey together anticipating such trauma and such loss, and yet it becomes such an inevitable part of so many people's journeys. And I want to just say that I mentioned at the beginning that synagogue in particular can be a difficult place for those who are struggling. And even our liturgy doesn't acknowledge the difficulty and the unique circumstances of so many of us. Every Shabbat morning, we come together and offer a tefillah, a blessing for the whole kihila. And we're told that the kihila should be blessed. Yivarecha kol haka'al hakadosh baruch hazeh ki kol kihilot hakadosh heim v'nashehem uvneihem uvneitehem v'chol asher lahem. May God bless the holy congregation together with all the other holy congregations, them, their wives, their sons, and their daughters, and all that is theirs. If we don't fall into the category of being a wife, or having sons, or having daughters, the community, the shul, the synagogue, doesn't seem to be a place for us. And so our call tonight is to begin thinking about how to change that, how to put not only our monetary resources, but our spiritual resources, our ritual resources, our emotional resources, pulling them together to think about how we can really support people, so many people whose dreams and hopes have been shattered or not yet realized. Thanks everybody for coming together, and may we continue this conversation. Hopefully the content of tonight will be available We will also be putting up a portion of our website on the Buy It dedicated specifically to pregnancy loss and infertility, so that we can become a venue of resources that you can direct people to. So please stay tuned for that portion of our website going live. And please also let me know if you are a resource, if you would like to offer services to others, and if you want to participate in future groups that we're putting together, where people can really gather together and tell their own stories, share what they have to offer, and just figure out how we can continue to support one another. I just want to thank our panelists for coming tonight and bringing yourself here. I learned so much from you every single day, and I'm just very grateful that we were able to come together. I want to thank Rabana for your compassion and for helping to pull all of these events together on infertility, and for the community members who came to us to make sure that we're continuing to have these conversations. I want to thank Barry Bender, who is helping us to maintain and to sustain these conversations online, to the Buy It for allowing this to happen, to our maintenance staff, and to also Yael Minor Oshinsky, who's not here tonight, but really spent a lot of time helping us pull this event together. So, and for all those that I forgot, to also thank, I see Rose Stephen in the room now, and also just want to thank you for allowing this for events like this to occur in our Buy It. Thanks everybody, have a wonderful night.